Items to be considered at the regular meeting of the Board of Education held Tuesday, September 30th, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. in the Unit Office Conference Room, 500 North 10th Street, Herrin, Illinois, 62948. A legal notice as prescribed by law was published, and the tentative budget for fiscal year 2026 for July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 has been available for public inspection since 9 a.m. August 27th, 2025. The School Code of Illinois requires that a public hearing be conducted prior to the formal adoption of the budget by the Board of Education. The superintendent will present a summary of the budget and will respond to any questions from those attending the hearing as well as members of the Board of Education. All those who wish to be heard on the budget are invited to make their comments after the formal presentation. Mr. Wilson.
Okay, so for our FY26 budget, it is a tough budget for us this year due to a variety of factors, which I'll try to explain here in tonight's presentation, be as succinct as I can, but be glad to answer any questions as we move through this, as long as the clicky mouse is not going to work. Cassie, you may have to hit enter for me on the page.
Mm-hmm.
It's not connected for some reason. There we go. First off, start with our financial profile score. Just give you a little bit of history of our district and how our district financial picture has looked over the last 8-9 years. Tough times there in 16, EBF came into play. FY17, EBF, the evidence-based funding formula, and that's our state funding driver. That has led us to being in some pretty good times financially, and you can see took a little dip there after the COVID year, but we have been pretty consistent over the last few years, getting a financial recognition at 3.6 each of the last 3 years. Notice that's FY24 is the last year I have a financial profile score for. FY25 last school year, that is not out yet. Okay. The district enrollment, that is important to us because we have to follow how many students we have in the district, because that is going to drive our evidence-based funding dollars, how much money we get from the state, as well as we need to be cognizant of that so we know how to plan accordingly for the number of staff that we need each year, year in, year out. You can see our data there. It's not been too far off, sticking between 2,300 and 2,200 here in the last several years. The one thing I will say, as I've reported before, if you look at live birth rates for the area, for the state, for the nation, birth rates are down. People just aren't having babies anymore. That's the trend. That's not just a Herrin thing, it's not a Williamson County, it's not a Illinois, it's a nationwide thing. If you look at any larger mega districts in the state and in the country, down about 5% on average throughout the country is what the reports are. That doesn't look to be getting any better in the next couple of years anyway. Hard to know after that because the live birth rate data isn't available for that. So trending is what you're seeing there, but we've been holding pretty consistent and steady. If you look at this, I didn't overlay it with our student enrollment, but our staffing has stayed pretty consistent for a few years, and then we took a jump in 23 to 24, and that is when we added some grant teams to our district through grant employment. We've added a pre-K staff to our district since then, and some other support staff positions such as hall monitors, resource officers, people like that in our district is included. This does not include special education teachers. This does not include our special education parapros. This is strictly Herrin Unit 4 employees. If you would mix in the Williamson County education staff, within that you're probably going to add about another 80 staff members that work in our district but are not paid through Herrin Unit 4. So for total revenue, I just want to give you a snapshot here of what revenues have looked like. And this has been a good trend. We've trended slightly down here the last couple of years, but overall revenues have increased quite drastically. If you go back to FY18, I didn't put 17 on there, but again, evidence-based funding formula kicking in has made a difference for the district as well as any district in the state of Illinois. Revenues have been very good in the last approximately 8 years for our state, in particular for Herrin Unit 4. So total EBF, evidence-based funding, again, that's our main state funding for our district based on our October 1 student enrollment. So we want to have as many kids in our seats as we can tomorrow. and make sure that number looks really good tomorrow. So hopefully no one dropped out today, and we'll have them in our seats tomorrow. So that number, again, consistently increasing each year from FY 20 to 26 is what I have on this particular slide. You can see how the orange with the black on top, the little black cap. The little black cap on top is new money each year. Because the way evidence-based funding works, a district will not receive less money than they received the year before. We'll get new money, which we have every year, except for FY 21. That year it stayed flat. You can see in 20 we received approximately $14,000 from the state, a little bit more than that, $14 million from the state, and in 21 we received the same. We were consistently getting somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million new money each year. This year that decreased. We got slightly less than $600,000 in new money this year, and that is on this next slide, I believe. Yay! Remember that. So there's what our new money has looked like over the years. That's tier funding, T-I-E-R. There's 4 tiers in here, in the state of Illinois. Tier 1, 2, 3, and 4. Herrin is a tier 1 school. That means we are furthest away from being able to meet our financial adequacy target based on our local funding. So we get more of the new money each year than, let's say, like a tier 4 school would. So a tier 4 school, you're pretty much looking at your Collar County schools, your suburb schools that have 8% free or reduced lunch rate or less. They don't get the new money each year. So that was a big development in the state funding mechanism. But again, for Herrin, money was pretty good. New money each year was looking pretty good. You can see this year we took nearly a $400,000 drop in EVF. Why did we take that drop? Because Chicago Public Schools entered tier 1. So they just kind of like a big kid jumping in the pool and they splashed the water out. CPS took all that, a bunch of money from other tier 1 schools. So that's why the drop is there. Will it bounce back? Don't anticipate that. I would say we're probably going to be looking at this $550,000 to $600,000 in new money each year being our norm. I don't know that for certain. The powers that be have not made any comments about that. That's just my speculation. The equalized assessed valuations for our county, EAV, this is another source of revenue. Now, we don't get $235 million from local. This is the equalized assessed valuation. You can check there in 24 that EAV was $190 million approximately, and then it jumped last year to $218 million. That was that big 16% tax bump everybody saw in their taxes. That was the county's job. That was not Herrin Unit 4 or any school district bumping that up. The county made a blanket, almost all blanket bump of 16%. Some little areas didn't get that bump, but it did increase the EAV for the district. And again, this year, EAV is projected to be at projected at $235 million. So local assessed valuations continue to increase because we do pull our property taxes from that. But remember, we're only going to get CPI or 5% as an increase because we're a tax cap county. So we're not going to grow leaps and bounds with our local tax revenue, but we will see some increase from our local tax revenue. So kind of to put it here, all of our funds together, where we're getting our funding from, $20.5 million coming from state sources, the bulk of that coming from EVF, $14 million, almost 15 coming from local sources. That's not all property taxes, there's some other pieces to it. And then the federal piece of the pie there is a pretty slim piece of the pie. I would anticipate that federal piece of pie will also be decreasing in the next couple of years. If you've listened to anything going on in the federal government and possible dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education. Again, Cassie spent some time in Springfield last week trying to gain more information on that, and there's just not answers at this point in time. It's still a wait and see. So again, this is just a recap. Total revenue, where we're at this year, anticipating $38,133,063 in total revenue this year. So for expenditures, this is our trend in expenditures over the last few years. You can see last year was a big year for us. That's because we were paying that junior high addition. We had junior high addition completion going on. We had a pre-K going on. We had those two pieces, and so we had increased quite a bit of spending last year, but we had been receiving money from ESSER funds in the years prior that helped us to pay for those things last year in FY25. This year, we're anticipating $40,600,562 in expenses. That is a drop, a little over $3 million in a drop in expenditures. However, you flash back a slide, which I'm not going to ask Cassie to try to navigate that right now. Can you go back really easily, Cassie? 40 million on expenditures this year. You had it. Go back one. There you go. 38 in revenues. There's a gap there. That's what we call a deficit, unfortunately, and that is something that is concerning. And I'll point out to you some ideas about that and what we can do and what we can control and what we can't control about this budget deficit. Go ahead, Cassie. Go ahead, Wilma. Thank you. One of the things that has increased quite a bit is the cost of special education. So I won't get in great detail about how this is calculated. Basically, all the students in Williamson County are thrown into a pile. How many special education students are there in the county? What's the cost to do business for the county special education? And then we pay by the number of students we have, which is somewhere around 460 students we have in special education right now. So for us, this year, our assessment cost, that is what we pay to Williamson County for the teachers, the parapros, the program pieces like school psychs, school social workers, OT, PT services, all those types of things. That's going to cost us $4,206,546. That is an increase of about 13% over last year. As you can see, we had a pretty big jump from 24 to 25. That was about a 20% increase we had. And the year prior, I got my years backwards there, but over the last 3 years, we've had roughly a 43% increase in special education costs. I don't know that we can have absolute control over that. Can we cut down on special education referrals? We are. We're making gains in that regard. And at the same time, we have several students that move into our district with special education and IEP needs, which we have to serve them. So it's a really tough thing. We can't 100% control what's going on with special education. We can help and do some things, maybe be a little bit stronger in our intervention services to control that cost, but it's a really tough thing. You can see from 22 to 23, we're just looking at 2 to 3% increases in those years. A new contract was settled. We had a jump, 24, 25, 26. And now we'll be having negotiations for the Williamson County Teachers Education Association in this summer coming up. And so I would anticipate another sizable jump in our special education costs. Something that's costing us, and I really can't control it, so to speak. Overall, just a snapshot here, revenues versus expenditures. A lot of years there where the orange is better than the black, which is what you're looking for. Last year, kind of explained earlier, construction projects were the reason we had those expenditures. And then this year, our expenditures again are outdoing our revenues. One good thing what's going on, we have been decreasing our long-term debt. We've been paying that down. That's good for overall finance. That's something that the state does look at. What is your long-term debt capacity? We will be voting likely in the next month to restructure our long-term debt as those bonds are coming due, and we will have to refinance those against our sales tax, and we'll talk about that a little bit more next month. But long-term debt is decreasing. Another piece of good news, our sales tax is increasing. Thank you, Marion. And so we've grown quite a bit. We're right now, that might be a little bit of a conservative estimate, but about 2.6 million we'll get. Now remember, those bonds I just talked about that we're going to be refinancing, they're going to take up a good chunk of the sales tax revenue payments, or the sales tax money we receive each year. Also, important to note, sales tax revenue can only be used for facilities. We can't pay staff from sales tax revenue. It would be nice to be able to swing some of that over and take care of some of our staffing needs, but that's not permissible. And I think the district is pretty familiar with sales tax do's and don'ts. The lawsuit went through here just a few years ago, and we don't want to enter one of those again. So sales tax revenue is a good thing. We can, pave our parking lots. We can fix windows and roofs and HVACs, but we can't pay for staff out of that. Again, just financial profile score, again, just showing we've been consistent over the years. Go ahead. So deficit reduction, required to do it by the state, need to do it anyway. So one of the things we can look at, and I didn't have a slide for this in the other one, in the prior, is pre-K changes. So our pre-K, we've opened it up last year. We have a half-day program. In our half-day program, we serve 2 classrooms, 20 students in the morning, 20 students in the afternoon in each of those programs. So that's 80 spots that we offer to our community. Out of those 80 spots, we keep it running right around 68, 70 kids. We leave a few spots open for our homeless and special education students, as we're required to do. So the pre-K program right now is not paying for itself. It's just not paying for itself. Matter of fact, it's about $500,000 it's not paying for itself. We've got a lot to gain there. So what can we do? How can we make more from our pre-K? We can go to a full day program. So a half day program, we get $34 per student. A full day program, we could run 3 classrooms, running about 55 kids in those classrooms, and get paid $84 per day. So that would give us an increase in funding of pre-K, which would not quite cover that full gap, but it would give us some time to maybe see pre-K, hopefully help out with our special education costs. Now, this is just a Mr. Wilson theory, so you can shoot some holes in it if you'd like. But hopefully, by keeping our pre-K, getting our students into pre-K, having more students in pre-K at 3 and 4 years old, by the time they hit kindergarten, they're more prepared for kindergarten, first grade, and we'll see less need for special education services, which is one of the biggest costs that we have in servicing our students. It's going to take a little bit of time to see if that pans out. I hope we are going to see those results from it, and we'll have to get some good data together from the kindergarten, first grade, and pre-K, and take a look at how that's working. But immediate changes for our pre-K, half day to full day, I say immediate, that's moving into next year that we're going to be doing that, and that'll help us. Monitoring special education, I talked quite a bit about special education earlier, what we can and can't do in special education. Some of it's controllable, some of it's not. But we'll do everything we can. Again, we've continued to make improvements in special education in the district, and we'll just keep on after that. Another piece of this is the attrition due to declining enrollment. Attrition, when teachers retire, not filling them necessarily with another position. So for example, let's just use some simple math. Let's pretend we have 10 teachers in a grade level that normally we have 180 kids in there. 18 per class is a pretty good ratio. But if the numbers decrease to 150, and it's 15 kids per class, at that point in time, we probably need to start thinking about maybe if a teacher retires from that grade level to not necessarily fill that position. It's not a hard and fast 100% we're getting rid of anybody that retires. That's not the point. We need to look at positions that we can make gains in this, because it's one of the only ways we're going to get back to a balanced budget. We can not buy computers, we can not buy new uniforms, we can not buy new whatevers, and that's going to save $10,000 here, $10,000 there, $10,000 there. But in attrition, we save hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of dollars very quickly. So we'll have to continue looking at that in the next few years and see what we can do. Go to the next slide, Cass, if you will, please. Roll.
Slide 17 of 17.
Okay, anyway. So I had some assumptions on my last slide, assumptions of that our enrollment continues to decline. That's just an assumption right there. We'll see if that happens. And an assumption that our funding will remain where it's at. There's still a chance the state could cut funding and the feds could cut funding. That's not a given right now. It's just a little bit scary in that regard. Those are a couple of big assumptions that are being made. So we'll continue, we as an I, we'll continue to study and utilize Rachel in this process to find out areas that we can make gains. If we have, we always overdo our expenditures in the budget for more than expenditures than what we think we're gonna have. Now, we're not just throwing loosey-goosey numbers in there, there's some rhyme and reason to it. And we're always gonna underdo our revenues a little bit, just to try to give ourselves a little bit of a break. And typically in here, we come out with a little bit more revenue than we anticipated, or a little bit less than the expenditures than anticipated. We're hoping that this year continues to remain the same as it has in the past. Some areas where we can gain, looking at that half-day to full-day pre-K program, adding some money back in there, hoping maybe at best for a flat year or a minimal year in special education costs. I don't see that happening. Hopefully our funding continues to go at least a new $600,000 in EBF and not a decrease in EBF again. And then again, looking for spots where we can save due to the declining enrollment. So it's gonna take a couple of years. If you ask me what progress is gonna look like this year, it's finding those spots where we can nip a little bit. Take, for example, our tutoring and our summer enrichment. We've been spending a couple $100,000, almost $250,000 a year on after-school programming and summer programming. We're gonna have to pare that down. We're just gonna have to pare it down. It's not, nobody's losing a position, but some teachers may not get quite as much of that extra money, if you will. So looking at things like that. I had to order for 5 Promethean boards, we had to pare that down. I can't just order 5. I had to order for 150 computers, can't order 150 computers. But we're gonna take care of things like in that regard. It's gonna take a couple of years. If everything can go as I can forecast it at best right now, we'll have a deficit budget again next year. I don't think we can catch us all up in 1 year unless something really crazy changes. So let's cut it in half. Cut it in half this year, cut it in half the next year, back to a balanced budget again. If there's a silver lining, it's that we do have some reserves that we're able to use right now, and we're not gonna have to go out and bond, but the reality of it is, I can't raise taxes like property taxes, nor do I want to. But if that's the way you can generate some revenue, that is sometimes just a necessary evil, and that did occur about 10 years ago. So it's cyclical, and we'll ride that wave. But not the best news. It's probably the worst budget presentation news I've ever had to give in any district I've been in. I just hate it, but I think if we all just continue doing what we can, where we can, we're gonna make it. So what kinds of questions are there?
And Daniel, I had a question about, when did we know that Chicago was gonna be in the tier 1 list?
It was late in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
We had really no idea what kind of impact that would make number-wise. We knew they were coming, but we didn't get our EBF number until like August 7th. I did not anticipate that big a splash.
And when we put together this pre-K program, last year, did we not anticipate any numbers, looking what the numbers are, should we have?
They're higher than I anticipated. I missed it. Yeah, it was just absolute error on Mr. Wilson. Yeah, I undershot on those expenditures.
Can we do this in January to go to home?
I don't think so. You have to run the school year the way you started the school year. Chrissy's shaking her head yes.
Yeah, no, we have to run it, we are on a 3-year grant, and so we have to finish out this grant year, and then we can reapply. Starting in March, I can reapply for this.
We had a lot of conversation back in December, January, February of last year about moving on to a full day program. At that time, it just wasn't feasible. There was too many hurdles and obstacles still. Moving to full day for this school, it just wasn't something that was feasible for us at the time.
Now, is there a waiting list of some type? Right now, we're at 2 classes, and next year we're looking at maybe 3.
Mhm.
Is there a waiting list?
So 2 classes right now are at 80. 3 classes next year, we'd only be able to serve 60.
Okay,
So
okay, so there would be enough.
there would be enough bodies to fill the seats.
Okay, that's
Yes.
all.
I think as long as we continue to maintain the full day status, that's what parents are really looking for,
Sure.
as opposed to Williamson County's half day program. And we'll continue to offer morning care and after care once we do move to a full-day program.
If we take any away from north side,
A few, but not the tremendous amount, yeah.
And when you're talking about, about cutting back on these programs in the summer, we know since 2020, the impact it's had on the kids and their advancement. Are we gonna have that kind of thing again when we don't offer kids the opportunity in the summer to catch up?
Well, I think if we get down to it really, and you have to pick and choose, we offer tutoring or remedial and enrichment. If we needed to really cut, we would probably have to cut the enrichment part of it so that our students who need the remediation services and the tutoring services would benefit, so we wouldn't see that loss like they're.
And the referrals for special education, I would hate to see that we don't serve the students
Right.
that really need served.
Right, and some of it's 100% out of our control. We've had kid move in from out of state, nonverbal, can't.
But even to say to people, cut back on your referrals.
Yeah.
When we're gonna trust the student, the teachers to say to us, this kid really having a problem. We want
Yeah.
to be careful with that, is all I'm trying to say.
Right, and I understand what you're saying too, and it's a tough process, but, you know, we are making, you know, concerted efforts through our RTI process and revisiting that, and that's just good practice on our end too.
We need to talk to you from the state level, we need to have fight for us as far as Chicago is concerned, get some of that money back, is there even a possibility?
I don't know that's even a possibility, honestly. That's just the system. It's the way it's built. And I think another part of the equation that they didn't really talk about was that higher education also wants a piece of EDF. And so they've not been on the same type of system, and so your colleges and universities, they want a similar system. They've not had that. And so there's only so many dollars to go around. So I think it's almost gonna be like, let's just hope we continue to get our flat funding, is what my worst fear is, but gotta be kind of prepared for that too.
Do you anticipate EDF going away?
No, I don't see EDF going away. I could see it
Changing?
flattening. And 350 million's always been the new money every year, 350. This year I think it was 305, is that right? 305 new money?
Yeah.
Anybody? 305. So we did see a decrease in EDF total funding this year. But that was the property tax piece that, go ahead, Rachel.
I would, just another, piece to the Chicago issue is, it isn't necessarily Chicago's fault as much as in the formula that's been around since EDF came. One of the local sources is the corporate personal property replacement tax. And that has been really high the last few years. And what happened is all of a sudden it decreased, and nobody really has any control over that as far as the school districts. And when that decreased, their local sources then decreased, so it moved them up into tier 1. So it really wasn't anything that Chicago schools did or anything that we control. It was just the way the formula is set up and what plays in that formula.
It's the way the system is set up to help all districts, and just so happens CPS is huge.
Yeah. And so when they all of a sudden moved up, it took a huge chunk from everybody else, or a huge chunk of that
We're just-
tier 1 money.
We're just fortunate we're in tier 1 still.
Yeah.
Because if we were in tier 2, it's just even less money.
And you also mentioned that we had several teachers that completed their master's degree, and that's a bump.
Yeah, we have a lot of teachers that are going into higher education. I think this year's probably 15 teachers got their master's degree, so that's a good bump for them. It's not a bad thing.
Is it feasible for us to have some, one tell us that they're gonna be completing, so that we can anticipate what the budget would look like for all these people that might be?
It's for the conversation anyway. Yeah. I don't feel like a lot of people have their masters now. I mean, really, I'd be interested to go down the lineup and look and see that there were a lot of teachers that hold their masters
I mean,
degrees.
it's just another element of not surprised.
Right, to be able to forecast more accurately. Yeah.
So you mentioned that we have reserves that have been able to compensate for that.
Right.
Based on the trend that we're on right now, when do those reserves run out?
We have about 6 million in reserves. If we continue on this course, there's 3 years worth of dollars, or 3 years worth of money, if we have a $2 million deficit each year.
So that tells me that we've all got to tighten our belts and make sure that we're being very conscious about what we're spending our money on.
Yeah.
It's only gonna be immediate, it can't be overnight.
We have to look 3 years down the road. We gotta look, we got a bigger picture to look at here than just what's right here in front of us right now.
Any other questions or conversations with regard to the budget from the board? Any questions or concerns anybody from the audience has for Mr. Wilson?
I have a question. So we're not looking to cut any services, if anything, we're just looking, other than possibly summer program, we may be looking to cut some for the enrichment. I'm with Ms. Wilson, Ms. Miller, that, we definitely wouldn't wanna cut services for, I don't wanna use the word underprivileged, but because otherwise we're gonna end up increasing our need for special education. So I think that was a very good point that was pointed out. So we're not looking in the coming year about cutting anything other than possibly adding into the pre-K program where we do full-time. Am I correct?
From a district position, if there's anything in the district that we have right now, we're not looking to cut something. Now, if there's a grant that goes away, which there's a big grant that goes away, I don't know that I can keep that service going. That's too significant.
How would that happen? Or what would that look like for a grant to go away?
So if the grant funding that we get from the federal government, for example, if it's $100,000 or $500,000, if that money were to go away, people that are being paid through that grant, I can't guarantee they would have a position in the district because obviously the $2 million budget already, or $2 million deficit already, to incur additional costs, we couldn't sustain that. It's not sustainable. Will we look at all our alternatives to try to find ways to keep as many services provided to our students? Already doing that, already working on that, yes.
And how is so I'm assuming, that we get state grants then? So that's pretty stable.
I wouldn't even say that. No, I wouldn't even see a state grant,
Do we get notification if they're not, or?
Not much,
Okay.
not much.
Is there a site that I can go to see what's being projected?
I think anybody's guess is as good as another person's right now. Yeah, I just got back from the state superintendent's conference, mom's the word. Cassie got back from the state or conference for Title I federal, nobody knows. That a lot of it's hinging on what the federal government does. And because so much money the state has to operate with is coming from the feds one way or another.
So so I just wanna make sure I understand this. So federal grants, we're not sure what's gonna happen, but it's
Correct.
pretty stable at this point. State, for what we know, state grants are pretty stable for what we know at this point, but we're not looking at anything going away. I'm just concerned because there was conversation about increasing our pre-K to full-time, but we're gonna have to apply for that grant. Do we anticipate that grant's gonna go away before that?
Very likely
position is-
could, very likely could.
And is that a state or federal grant?
State.
Stay.
Okay.
With that, I do have a question with that.
Good.
What happens if we don't get the full day next year? Are we gonna be able to sustain pre-K
I don't
with
think
this
so.
limited budget?
No, I don't think so. We'll have to figure out something, but I don't
Okay.
think we can sustain as it stands right now.
Cause I know we will not know until October if we get the grant or not. Next
Right.
October. So we'll be able to ride that until we know, or are we just gonna not start pre-K until we know if we got the full day or not?
Couldn't answer that question right now.
So
There's a
then
lot
that-
of water to pass under the bridge between now and then.
So then that would be a concern then,
Sure.
if we don't get that, because then we're just gonna increase our special education need, because part of the reason why we're putting in pre-K is to prevent that from happening. Am I making sense? So we're trying to be proactive with the
Sure.
younger generation or the younger students to prevent the need for as they age. And, So.
You just gotta do a cost benefit analysis. How much money can we sustain to put into preventative services of any kind, whether it be pre-K, social work, school safety, hall monitors, SROs, et cetera. How much money can we afford to put into any of those services before it's too great of a cost that outweighs the benefit?
Right.
So it's, and
So
this.
there really needs to be an analysis.
Oh, absolutely, and so to do a good accurate analysis, you kinda have to know what the cards are that are being played, and that's the hardest part about this, is right now, it's pretty early in our fiscal year, and it's still not certain what this year will play out to be. Let's hope we get all of our reimbursements we're supposed to get, from transportation to special education. Let's hope those reimbursements come through.
Now, does that come from federal or
State.
state? Okay, so we shouldn't probably see a huge amount of that. Okay, my concern is a resident, a parent, is that we really brought in this pre-K, we may be taking steps back, and that's concerning. That we've really put ourselves out there to say, I mean, I know in my position, you know, that I've really been encouraging of the pre-K,
Sure.
having pre-K clearly, but that I really think that's been a positive step for the city of Herrin, and I just hate to see that we may take a step back, and then we may see a very negative impact as our students get older and we need higher education services, so that's all I
Same
have
way,
to say.
yeah,
Thank you.
I'd hate for us to make the investment we've made to this point.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we get to the end of the day, and if you have a major gap in funding that you can't cover, it's just the reality of it. So, nobody's in the chopping block, nobody's been eliminated today. Here's what we're dealing with, we'll see how this year unfolds, where can we save, what does next year look like? There's a lot of variables in the play here, and I try to succinctly state what some of the variables are without getting into great depth. And that's the best that I can do at this point, but, you know, everything could change honestly tomorrow. You know, September 30th is the day, it's a pretty big day for the federal government, I don't think they're gonna take anything going on. We're not gonna have any answers, but maybe we do.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a lot.
I appreciate your input, so at this point, we haven't eliminated anything or
Nope.
any positions or anything,
And I think
so
that's
I do
something that the
appreciate
Herrin group will always be prideful of, is that they've never had to like cut things, we found a way to get it done otherwise.
Sure.
And I know people are asking, what they might be able to do. With the federal government, you have people in your district that you can contact and say, you know, we're concerned over the federal funding for education. You can send that to your state legislature. You can advocate for a school district on your very own. Everybody has that opportunity.
Can I interject on that?
Sure can.
So you will see here in the next week or two, that our district and 5 other Southern Illinois schools that received the $45 million federal grant, we have gotten together, we collaborated, we are issuing out, a response to the cuts that we have seen, that are forecasted, to keep our funding here in Southern Illinois. My boss's office has been diligently working with us, and, we're hopeful that we can hear something positive here in the next couple of weeks, but please look out for that, and, any emails that we come to you that can help us.
And what would that money be used for?
It is our full service grant, it is, hired the grant office and 5 additional outreach advocates, each working in the buildings. It has a communications director on that grant.
Lots of.
It has nothing to do with pre-K.
Actually, it has, we spent $60,000 on the pre-K equipment last year. We have funded a advocate to be out there to help support the students who are needing assistance. She's met with all 68 students, had one-on-one with them. In addition to that, it also provides that after-school activities. We have funded clubs. I have spent $40,000 just in the last year on CTE programs, construction, any of the things that you see our students creating, whether it was the cat houses, picnic tables at the junior high, the greenhouse that's getting put in, all of that has come from that grant. And I have any of that information available to anybody who wants to see that.
Not to sound negative, those are important things, don't get me wrong when I say this, but there's also a point where we have to get down to bottom line, what the expenses look like, what we gotta have to be able to run. we gotta make sure that we can pay for those things too. So those are what I would call, gosh, that would be really nice if we had kind of things, but we gotta get down to, we gotta be able to pay with what we've got. So we need to focus on, we gotta pay for what we gotta have to run.
And then on that federal grant, particularly, we cannot, sustain any programs that existed before that grant, that is a supplanting of the federal grant. So I can only support new things or things that we've added to. So I just wanna make sure that I'm not trying to say that we can help maybe with some after-school programs that existed before that grant, we can't do that. But what we can do is we can assist, maybe if a program does go, that we can then assist, create a different program that might help.
There's no grants available to help with the pre-K program
So the
that
pre-K,
exists.
so the pre-K program, back in March, we tried to do that, extension, and had we done that, we would have been guaranteed for next year as well. Can't go back, we can only look at the future. And so her and I have already had a conversation today about that, what it looks like for us, and I think we will continue to go on with that expansion. Correct, there's some things that can't be discussed here, but there's some hiccups that will exist.
So to piggyback off kind of what Cindy was saying is the fact that we need to write our letters, get a hold of our legislators and do what we can to make sure that we are getting every dime that we can possibly get for our district, number one. That goes back to the question of who do we need to write, who do we need to get a hold of to make sure that we're getting every dime that we possibly can for this district. I think it's also a challenge for everybody. It doesn't have to be Mr. Wilson, it doesn't have to be our administration, it needs to be people that put your thinking caps on and say, you know what can we do, each one of us sitting in this room, to trim where we can and have an idea that might be beneficial for the whole district, where we save money, and we find a way to generate a revenue. So it's gonna take all of us all working together to make sure that we're able to do that and provide the programs and things that we need to make our district as great as it is. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, have the budget hearing adjourned at 6:12. So the budget hearing is now adjourned, and with that, I'd like to ask everybody to please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Hastings, would you please call roll?
John Hutchinson.
Here.
Cindy Anderson. Here. Cindy Miller. Here. Kelly Green.
Here.
Steve Young.
Here.
Brad Blakey.
Here.
Steve Robinson.
Here.
This time, we need a motion, a second, and a roll call vote to adopt the budget for Herrin Community Unit School District Number 4 for the fiscal year 2026, which runs from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026.
Some, second.
Cindy Miller.
Yes.
John Hutchinson.
Yes.
Kelly Green.
Yes.
Brad Blakey.
Yes.
Susie Everton.
Yes.
Steve Robinson.
Yes.
Steve Young.
Yes.
This time, we'd recognize anyone who would like to address the board. When we recognize that person, should give their name for making their comments. Statements are asked to be limited to 5 minutes in duration. Is there anybody that would like to address the board at this time? Not moving on to the consent agenda. We need a motion, a second, or a roll call vote to accept and approve the items listed and not extracted on the consent agenda for September 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Kelly Green.
Yes.
Cindy Miller. Susie Everton.
Yes.
Steve Robinson.
Yes.
Brad Blakey.
Yes.
Steve Young.
Yes.
John Hutchinson.
Yes.
Since there's no old business to consider, moving on to special reports. For the pre-K center, there were several guest readers from the junior high softball team that served as guest readers at the pre-K. Many students achieved perfect attendance for September, and there were terrific Tiger Awards that were awarded for respect, and they were Nora Merriman, Gatlin Turner, Isla Taylor, and Avery Williams. Moving on to Northside Primary Center. Mrs. Workman's class won the attendance traveling trophy. The class had attendance percentage of 98.3%. 78 kindergarten students had perfect attendance in August. 75 first grade students had perfect attendance in August. The Herrin Police Department gave a demonstration of the Canine Police Officer Program. Gave them an idea of what canine officers actually do. And that was done on Friday, September 19th. And there were once again several students for the month of September who showed respect in the classroom and throughout the building. Moving on to Herrin Elementary School. August attendance trophy winners were for second grade, Mrs. Bofield, third grade, Mrs. Mozzie, fourth grade, Mrs. Johnston, fifth grade, Ms. Trexler, and for Mr. Wofford. Way to go for our Tigers on that. Congratulations to our August Accelerated Reading Trophy. Those went to Mrs. Hartwig's class in second grade, Mrs. Ferranio's class in third grade. Fourth grade was Mrs. Milliken, and fifth grade Mrs. Isbell. The top 5 readers for the month of August were fifth place Maybelle Rogemel, fourth place Jillian Davis, third place Miles Williams, second place Gavin Lemons, and first place Blake Lemons. August Kindness Character Award winners were given out as well. And then there were several readers who excelled in all the different grade levels, so congratulations to all those. Letters will be sent out to everyone on behalf of the district. For junior high, the softball had a great season. Did not end up the way that they would like for. They ended up 19-3 losing to Carterville 2-0 at the regional championship game on Saturday. Cross country boys continue their winning streak and have not lost a meet yet. The boys have been ranked in the state as high as number 6 after week number 4, according to Illinois Running News. So congratulations to our cross country runners for the junior high level. And then moving on to the Herrin High School, boys and girls cross country the boys won the Murphy Invitational. They placed first out of 18 teams. Boys cross country placed first in the past 3 invites, including Murphy, Herrin, and Olney. And the boys cross country team ran very well. The Freeburg Invitational placed second, owing to tough Defalto Civic Memorial team. Math team. 12 of the Herrin High School math team members competed at Belleville for week 1 of the Southwest Math Conference contest. Those earning medals and ribbons for the Tigers were freshman Cole Walker, Cole Brandon, Trip Manzo. Sophomores were Nathan Jones, Miles Ellett, and Terry Eggmeyer. Juniors were Logan Groves, Sylvia Johnson, and Michael Bergman. Seniors, Tyler Dotson, Jack Harris, and Nolan Gentili. Volleyball, the Lady Tigers competed at the Carbondale Triple Crown Preview and finished the day with a 2-2 record. Congratulations to junior Shania Johnson for making the all-tournament team. For girls tennis, the Lady Tigers finished 4th at the Herrin Invite with 3rd place finish by Brooklyn Brandon in the Consolation Championship by Peyton Billingsley. Girls golf, Gracie Kraft placed 4th in the Ohio division at the SIRR conference. I do know that she finished today and qualified for sectionals and will compete Monday at Jacksonville. And for the Scholar Bowl, they started off their season by traveling to SIU to film for the Scholastic Haiku. Varsity captain Nolan Gentili led the team of Charlie Schleiman, Tyler Dotson, Chris Banks in a match against opponent Sisney, and the match end results will air on WSIU by October 12th. So congratulations to all of our Tigers. Anything to add, Mr.? Just completely blank.
There's Mr. Hartman.
Mr. Harlow. I just heard so many names, I just completely went blank on that. Anything to add?
I have to
So
say,
sorry
I
about
can't believe
that.
it's the last day of September already. It's been a great start to the school year. You know, we've been in school for 2 months already. We're looking at the first quarter coming up in a week and a half, so it's been a great start to the year. That best stretch of learning is taking place. I'm sure the teachers are ready to jump into fall break here in about 10 days. But it's been a really, I can't give you a data point or anything else, but it's been a great start to the school year. So thanks everybody. Good job.
Mr. Harlow, I apologize for that. Complete blank on your names.
Could I add that cross country for the junior high both of them made conference?
Conference
So
champs,
it's
just
Yeah, they accomplished
Yeah,
it.
Yesterday?
girls and boys cross
Yeah.
country.
Congratulations. Okay, moving on. Any conversation with regard to the activity account, Mr. Wilson?
none.
Okay. We need a motion, a second, and roll call vote to approve the Hot Rod Club at the high school and to authorize the high school bookkeeper to establish the Hot Rod Club account
It's a card
within
club.
the high school activity ledger.
So moved.
Second.
Steve Young,
Yes.
Brad Blakey,
Yes.
John Hutchinson,
Yes.
Steve Robinson,
Yes.
Kelly Green,
Yes.
Susie Atherton,
Yes.
Cindy Miller.
You who's in charge of the hot rod club.
Do you have to have
Harris
a hot
Parks.
rod in order to belong?
Mr. Anderson, you wanna talk about the Hot Rock Club?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mr. Almerode, he has extensive background, not just in like auto mechanics, but he also knows how to build. Like he has some of his former jobs, he actually built cars from the ground up. So he's teaching those kids how to build cars from welding frames together, putting everything piece by piece. So it's not just like going in, hey, how do you change oil? How do you change tires? How do you do brakes? It's the whole shebang. He also knows how to do body work. He's teaching kids how to do that. He's had some really cool guest speakers come in the past couple weeks. Guys on a national level, how they promote their business in YouTube. There was a really big like old truck show in Marion at the Pavilion a couple weeks ago, and he actually brought trucks over. Like one actually broke down, and they came in, and I think that one, he showed it to us. Now that was a different one. The one that he showed us, it was like $110,000. Like he was opening it up, showing kids like how to put brakes on, how to do all that on those old vehicles. So a lot of those kids that want to be in the Hot Rod Club, 45 minutes to an hour and a half is just not enough for them. So they're wanting to know more. So he's opening that door. Like he tells them, there's a lot of ways to make money in the auto industry. And he says by no means he's been a certified auto mechanic. He says there's just a lot more avenues for them to learn. So our kids have really picked up. He actually did a summer enrichment on that, and kids are really enjoying what he's doing back there. Said it's a lot more than just one piece of auto mechanics.
Mr. Wilson, can you tell us what is going on with the gym south side? I heard there was some pipes that broke or.
In the old gym, we had a water leak, kind of down underneath the stage, the PE office. There's a crawl space back in there. We had a water line bust, and like Friday the 19th at about 2 o'clock, and water came out and got on the gym floor down there in the northeast corner, kind of in front of the visitors bench. And so that floor down there has got sustained water damage. It's got a pretty good.
The whole floor?
It's pretty, you can see the ripples from the sideline, you can feel the ripple all the way out to about mid-lane, and that runs up to about 3-point line, something like that, Brad, would you say? Yeah, it's a pretty good chunk of that corner of the floor. We'll wait to see what can be done, what needs to be done on it to get it repaired, but right now it's not like it's buckled up horribly, but it's more, it's got a pretty good rise in the deep corner there, and then it's rippled across there.
Will insurance cover that? And
We hope so.
so will the games be played in the other gym, or do you have any idea?
I don't have an idea yet, but I'm thankful we have another gym if it comes.
And are we looking at replacing the entire floor or just that section?
I have no idea, no. It's still pretty early in this, we're waiting for it to dry still.
Okay. This time we need a motion, second, and roll call vote to close the meeting in accordance with section 122A of the Open Meetings Act, citing the following exceptions as contained in section 122C, to discuss disciplinary cases, consider approval of closed minutes, to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance evaluation, and dismissal of specific employees, and to discuss litigation.
So,
Susie Atherton? Yes. Steve Robinson?
Yes.
Steve Young?
Yes.
John Hutchinson?
yes.
Cindy Miller? Kelly Green?
Yes.
Brad Blakey?
Okay, so the motion, second, and roll call vote to reconvene the open session.
Steve Robinson?
Yes.
John Hutchinson?
Yes.
Brad Blakey?
Yes.
Steve Young?
Yes.
Susie Atherton?
Yes.
Cindy Miller? Kelly Green?
Yes. Need a motion, a second, and roll call vote to adopt the closed minutes for the meeting held August 26, 2025.
So moved. Second.
Brad Blakey?
Yes.
Susie Atherton?
Yes.
Steve Robinson?
Yes.
John Hutchinson?
Yes.
Kelly Green?
Yes.
Cindy Miller? Steve Young?
Yes.
Need a motion, a second, and roll call vote to approve the following personal recommendations as presented for employment. Darian Taylor, parent bus liaison for the district. John DeBose as a Dollar basketball coach for the junior high school, spring coaches for the high school, spring coaches for the junior high school, and fishing boat captains for the high school.
So moved.
Second.
John Hutchinson,
Yes.
Susie Atherton,
Yes.
Cindy Miller, Kelly Green,
Yes.
Steve Young,
Yes.
Brad Blakey,
Yes.
Steve Robinson.
Yes.
Having completed the items on the agenda, I need a motion, a second, and a roll call vote to adjourn to the next meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for Tuesday, October 28th, 2025, at 5:30 PM in Unit Office Conference Room, 500 North 10th Street, Durham, Illinois, 62948.
So moved.
Cindy Miller, John Hutchinson,
Yes.
Kelly Green,
Yes.
Brad Blakey,
Yes.
Susie Atherton,
Yes.
Steve Robinson,
Yes.
Steve Young.